gentlemen, I'd like to remind you that classes are in session.
What's the best argument against patristic authority? I have friends who appeals to them for various doctrines, baptismal regeneration, etc.
Well, the problem with most people who make reference to patristic authority is the idea that the early church fathers, because they were closer to the apostles, had some kind of, special insight, and we just have to believe whatever they said. Everyone that I've ever encountered that makes that argument either has done very, very little reading in the early church fathers or did reading in a very selective fashion.
Say that again?
Everyone that I've ever encountered that makes that argument either has done very, very little reading in the early church fathers or did reading in a very selective fashion.
Thank you!
Because the fact is, there's only one doctrine that I could say all of the extant early church writings agreed on, and that's the fact there's only one true God. Outside of that, you can find almost anything.
Say it ain't so.
And there are early church writings that are particularly useful, insightful. Clearly, the writer did have access to apostolic teaching and things like that. I think of the Epistle to Diognetus in particular, which I started a book on it once. I haven't finished it, and I really think I probably should. But great insights, great stuff. We don't even know who the author was. Very short, it's just fragmentary. But then there's stuff like the Epistle of Barnabas, the Shepherd of Hermas, where clearly these early church writers did not have access to all the New Testament. You think of 2nd century writer Justin Martyr. If he had almost any of Paul, it's hard to tell. Can you imagine how your theology would be impacted if you didn't have Paul?
Exactly.
So when people try to pull that, normally what they're doing is they haven't done that reading themselves. They're listening to somebody else who claims to have done that reading. But especially when dealing with Roman Catholicism and stuff like that, what you have is anachronism. The Roman Catholic Church has told people what the early church believed, and you have to simply believe it. So when it comes to the papacy, there's a 19th century document, Status Cognitum, came out right after the First Vatican Council, that just dogmatically says what we believe about the papacy has been taught from the beginning. There is a ton of evidence that that's just not true. Lots of honest Roman Catholic historians recognize that it developed over time.
Damn!
And it was not something that was believed from the beginning. But hey, you've got the dogmatic authority. You need to now look at those sources and see in them what you've been taught here. So it's anachronism. It's looking back and it's reading into things, subjects. So like, if you want to talk about baptism, read Tertullian. Baptism was in flux. There were all sorts of different views. Infant baptism was developing, but primarily only because if an infant was going to die. And the majority view was hold it off until you're about to die. So I mean, there's all sorts of different views. And so to say that, there's just one unified perspective, when I hear someone saying that, I know they are utterly ignorant of the early church fathers. They don't read them for themselves. And I've taught development of patristic theology, and I teach church history. I'm a professor of church history, and when I teach church history, I say, let the early church fathers be who they were. Read them for what they said. Don't try to turn them into a Reformed Baptist like I am, or a Presbyterian, or a Roman Catholic, or an Eastern Orthodox, or a Mormon, or whatever. Let them be who they were and interpret them in the context in which they live. That's the only way to do serious historiography.
Thank you all for coming. That's all the time I have right now. I have to get back to work.